So the recording is on and will be available shortly on our YouTube channel that will be made available to you. We'll send out a follow-up email along with the slides here today. So again, welcome to today's webinar. I'm Susan Harden with AGS and I'll be your presenter. We're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about the the Apprenticeship Building America application, our pre-built template, and a little bit of an introduction of AGS for those of you who are new to AGS. I know there's some folks here on the call that know us and know us well. We're just gonna start on time. I know there's still a number of folks logging in, but we'll just get them caught up along the way. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules. Here's just a picture being worth 1,000 words, as they say. Some of our H1B and AGS Prime customers, some of these logos maybe some of you recognize. This isn't everybody, it's just sort of a smattering of some of those organizations, especially H1B customers, because they are using our products for WIPS reporting, which is a key element of the Apprenticeship Building America, or ABA, grant project. And we're going to spend a little time talking about that and looking at how our templates support WIPS compliance reporting. So learning goals for today. This comes right out of your email invitation, so there's shouldn't be any surprises here. But we're going to go through just a little bit of introduction of who AGS is, what is AGS Prime, how does Prime track and report data for Apprenticeship Building America, what are some of the next steps for implementation, just kind of give you a sense of what that looks like. That's always a big question mark in people's minds about looking at commercial products and needing to figure out, what does it really mean? How big is that bread box, right? And then just quickly, where do you find some additional resources and information about how to contact me or how to contact us, how to get more information, how to get access to the recording, et cetera, et cetera. And we should have time for some discussion or Q&A at the end. We'll try to get everybody out of here right on time after about 35 minutes, thereabouts. So without further ado, let's dive in. So about us. So we are AGS, and American Government Services is our full company name. We abbreviate it to AGS, or AGS Data Systems, because it's just faster and easier to say. But we have been around for a little over 23 years. We have focused on the workforce industry and education and training industry. We are without question H1B and apprenticeship grant experts. We have supported numerous DOL ETA grants over the years, dating back many years, and have hundreds of organizations who are subscribing to and working with one of our many H1B templates for compliance reporting and tracking and WIPS data set upload reporting to be Pearl compliant. So those are all terms. If any of you are new to DOL ETA grants and you responded to this ABA FOA, those are terms that you are undoubtedly familiar with and are you're looking for guidance for how best to support those attributes. Hallmarks of AGS: we provide personal, online, one-on-one training, very high-touch, high-tech environment and approach to supporting our customers. We have a variety of different organizations, again, all over the country, using our various tools and templates. What you'll see today is one of our pre-built templates using the AGS Prime platform, which is a no-code platform that we have used Prime ourselves to build the H1B compliant application. And that is what we will use to base our ABA compliant, WIPS compliant template for the ABA. So AGS Prime is a complete no-code platform as a service, or PaaS. Many of you have heard the term SaaS, software as a service. This is a platform as a service, or a PaaS, a different class of commercial software systems. Prime has been built with a variety of different needs in mind. It really kind of starts with a problem, starts with a business need, and you can build your own tool, your own applications here, again, without needing to be a computer programmer. That's really the key here. It's very visual, very graphically oriented, drag and drop kinds of concepts that those of us who are not application developers really look for to build either simple or very complex applications. Again, we used Prime, the Prime architecture itself, to build the template that you're about to see, which is very complex. So this is the ABA is or will be a pre-built application. I'm going to demonstrate today one of our leading exemplars of an H-1B compliant WIPS reporting application that is going to be our launch pad for building off the Americas, or the Apprenticeship Building America application. What that does is provides you with a fast track to grant management. You can sort of back up the bus, turn the system on, so to speak, so it's quickly deployable. We will provide tracking for all of the required Perl data elements for the apprenticeship column in the Perl, in the mega Perl, if you will, and all of the hundreds of business rules and data elements and reporting requirements for WIPS that are baked into that spreadsheet and into that particular column. We support all of that with ongoing monthly user group meetings. So we bring our grant community together live on these kinds of platforms. And get everybody together and talk about what's new in Prime in the product, what's new in Prime for the grant, and be able to allow our community of users to ask each other questions. How are you doing a certain thing? What kind of policy issues are you guys running into, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We also then provide continued updating of the data tracking and reporting template for ABA as the feds continue to make changes for both data inputting, for business rules, and for WIPS reporting. In early days of these grants, again, as we have supported many grants over the years, we know in the early days things get buffed and polished and moved around a little bit, and we keep the system up to date for all of that flexing and all of those changes at no additional cost. That's just part of what you get with your subscription. So we really help you take that technology off the table and support you in compliant data tracking. Again, this is a WIPS compliant participant data tracking. This grant specifically expects individual record data, thus the Perl, to be able to track all of the fields that are required in the Perl for apprenticeships to be laid out in the correct specification and be able to be uploaded correctly to the WIPS system. We take care of all of that for you. So within this application, you have a case management business process where we're tracking intake and program enrollment and training and credentials, et cetera, et cetera. In a business process, humans helping humans. But while we're doing that, your data entry folks, whether they're in your organization or in your county or your state or around the country as part of your grant project, they don't have to have the business rules memorized. The application will guide them through that process. So we're doing a case management business process on one hand, while on the other hand, gathering the corrected data for the quarterly WIPS upload requirement. So you as grant managers don't have to be chasing down data at the end of the quarter in order to get your WIPS file in place and correct. That's a major value proposition that we bring to the table and have these hundreds of organizations around the country using our tools for these kinds of purposes. Baked into the application, of course, there's the participant side and there's the employer clients side for keeping track of your employers, the expanded apprenticeship programs, and the new apprenticeship programs that you are generating and working and building with your employer community. So, baked right in, integrated right into this application is participant tracking and employer tracking, a basic CRM, if you will, that allows you to track both types of participants, both types of customers, if you will. And of course, there's reports. You're going to have your compliant WIPS report. You'll have lots of other canned, air quotes, right, project management reports that are not required by the feds, but that are good for those of us, project managers, right? We want to make sure that we are managing to surprise, right? The point is, we don't want any surprises. So we always try to give you reports that help you manage where you are compared to where you think you are compared to where you're supposed to be at any given point in time. You also can generate your own data exports, reporting on every field on every form, and you can build your own queries and your own data visualizations and your own dashboards. So you have a tremendous amount of power and flexibility and compliance. So with all that said, we're going to leave the slides and we're going to dive into the application. And I'm going to sort of jog through this application so you can get a sense of what it looks like. So this is one of my demo sites. It's for H-1B and apprenticeship grant tracking. This is what all of our H-1B and apprenticeship application customers' templates for the variety of different applications that are out there for scaling your apprenticeship and closing the skills gap in one workforce, rural health initiative, dislocated worker career, dislocated worker grants, and so on and so forth. This is a very similar layout to all of those templates. So we have home. Of course, you're going to have your own logo or logos here, not AGS Prime. This is just my demo site and your own text here. But this is a welcome screen. This is the home screen. So as a staff user, this is the kind of easy to navigate user interface that we love, right? So we have our participant management, where all the participant data resides, right? We'll come back to this in a moment. We have our employer management module, where all of our employer data resides. I just have 3 employers in my demo site, forgive me. We have an admin module for this application, so our application administrators can buff and polish their template specific to some of the idiosyncrasies around your grant. What are some of your H1, what are your goals, your resource catalog programs? You can configure your own ONET codes, your own training catalog, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where I spend a lot of time on application admin training when we kick off a new customer. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to dive first into reports, because this is where people really look for us to provide them deep support and take this take the Excel spreadsheet sort of off the table, if you will. So let's just go ahead and dive into this WIPS CSV file. So this is a WIPS CSV file. I'm going to just look at this. These are the parameters that you can expect to see. We'll say what funding source for your grant will be here, Apprenticeship Building America. We'll just run this for the current reporting quarter, calendar year, quarter 22, quarter 2. I'll include for demo purposes a header, but in the real world, you would never submit your WIPS file with a header. but we give you the ability to run this with a header to and to include some additional fields if you want, to utilize your WIPS file, which is a pretty awesome data set in and of itself, for your own organization's analytics, for your own purposes. So we do give you that flexibility in utilizing your WIPS data set in an analytical fashion. We also give you an error checking file, a last best and final, if you will, before the report goes off to the feds, even though we're doing field level and form level field checking with business rules. We always like to give you the comfort of a last check. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, ignore the error file. I know in my demo site I've baked in a couple of errors just to show what that looks like. I'm going to say yes, ignore the error file now. Go ahead and run this so that you can get a feel for what a WIPS report coming out of AGS Prime looks like. It's downloaded it. I have two monitors here. I'll go ahead and grab this and drag it over. And for those of you who are familiar with WIPS, you'll see some very expected column headers. For those of you who are new to WIPS, I guess you're just going to have to trust me that this is what a WIPS file looks like, where we have our unique identifier, which is a system-generated identifier that is associated with your participant, and then all of the requisite columns of data with aliasing going on, which is a requirement of the data specification put out by the feds in the Apprenticeship Pearl. So we've got lots and lots of fields over here to go through. So I'm just going to close that. Just want to give you a sense of what that looks like. Feel free to chat in any questions if you have about any of this as we're going along. So that's the WIPS file. One of the other reports that we will be looking at adding, it's a bit more complex in ABA, but we're going to be looking at how we can best support the performance outcome measures in your Appendix F. And once again, I'll be just grabbing quarter 2 of calendar year 2022. I'm going to run this for all staff organizations. If you want to, we do give you the ability to run outcome measures reports per staff organization. So we do give you that flexibility if you're particularly managing some oversight in one of your partner organizations, for example. You can kind of keep an eye on how they're doing, or not, as the case may be. So here's what this report looks like. Again, this is an H-1B exemplar. So the ABA performance outcome measures reports are going to look similar. There are different outcome measures, as you well know, in your grant. So we'll be looking at how best to accommodate the various outcome measures reports for the ABA. You can see we're doing this for the projected, which you put in your proposal, that is to say, and where you actually are, and the system will auto-generate these calculations, and then percent of total. And of course, green means color coding, you've exceeded, red means you're a little bit behind, so everybody likes that, kind of helps that visual. Some of the other reports that are here, we do provide you with a QPR, so you can have an advanced picture of what your QPR will look like before it comes back to the feds. That will be modified to look like the ABA QPR. We also will provide for you a code book. So for all of the canned reports that are here, most especially including the WIPS CSV file, we will produce for you a code book that provides all of the levels of all the detail of every single Pearl data element and the description and detail that comes out of the Fed's Pearl spreadsheet. Then we compare that to where that field, that data element, resides in Prime, the Prime form, the Prime field, the error checking, and how we are handling everything within every single field in your WIPS file. We also give you the ability through this, of course, just quick ability to do searching, sort of that Wikipedia kind of thing where we want to keep track of where we are and quickly find information on key fields. So there's a code book for all of the canned reports in the application. We also will be providing for you queries. There will be one query, which means every field on every form. We will provide you a data dump of every single form, every single field on every single form by itself. The credential, the case note, the assessment, the participant profile, etc., etc. And we will provide some starter joins, if I can use that term, where we're relating one form to the next. I want to be able to see how many participants are enrolled in a particular program. I want to see how many services have been provided to someone with a particular zip code. Those kinds of quick queries. We'll provide sort of a starter list here for you. We also include the Mathematica query. So again, for those of you who are already working with DOL grants, DOL ETA grants, that is to say, and you're already been asked to provide the quarterly or twice or semi-annual Mathematica data set. We provide that for our customers as just yet another query. Analytics, we'll provide some additional analytics here, just a sample dashboard. Again, what we'll provide is just sort of starter information. You can build as many other canned reports, queries, and dashboards as you would like using the AGS Prime domain editors to just build your own reports and queries. You do not need to be a computer programmer to do any of that. That's beyond the scope of today's session showing all the domain, but that will be part of what you get with your subscription and part of your training and support that's part of your subscription package. So let me take a step back and just kind of quickly run through what the participant management side looks like. So I'm going to be putting data into the application. What does that look like? I'll put this back up here. I'm going to pick on my favorite test customer, Alexia Abrams, and I'm going to open up her case folder. Remember, this is an electronic case folder with the electronic file cabinet, if you will. So I've just gotten up out of my chair, walked over to the file cabinet, right, opened up the A drawer and pulled out the manila file folder for Abrams, Alexia, walked back to my desk and opened it up. And I see these, if you will, paper-clipped sections of categories of different documents, in this case, that have already been created on behalf of my customer. She has a pretty full case folder already with at least almost one document in every category of documents. So we'll start at the top. A person doesn't exist in the system without a demographics form. Who are they and what do they look like, right? So what you see here is just this sort of universal demographic information that is part and parcel with the Pearl for apprenticeship. You will see we've got the fields labeled as required, the allowable values that are only allowed by the Pearl, and the help text that comes directly from the Pearl for these fields. So we build all of that directly into the system for you. We know that if you can't get a real social security number, which of course is desired as is written in the FOA, the only other allowable value is 9 nines. So we have all of that information here as well, the accountability, exit status, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to just keep track of the demographics of this participant, go back to their case folder, and just quickly show the program enrollment form. Again, these fields are very much specific to H-1B. This will be modified to look exactly like what's required for the ABA, but it has a very similar look and feel with the allowable field values, the help text, And depending upon how I, as data entry, have entered the data, if I enter something that's incorrect to the business rules for this grant, the form will inform you that you've got a couple of inconsistencies here, and you may have noticed that my save button is now no longer active. So we're not going to let your data entry staff enter data that is in conflict with your WIPS reporting compliance. Very, very key aspect. And again, as the feds make changes to any of these business rules or fields or upload requirements, we'll keep these up to date for you. Let's put this back over here to employed, and you'll see no more errors. My save button is now live, etc., etc. So we've got lots of fields on this form. We're going to keep track of program enrollment. We're going to keep track of assessments and trainings and credentials. And all of these pieces of data are related back to a participant, to a related program, and to a related training, so that you have this breadcrumb navigation and reporting all the way along from the start when the person walks in the door to when they leave, and all of that data is connected for true longitudinal reporting over time for your grant. Of course, you can keep track of case notes, you can keep track of attachments, as many attachments as you want per participant, any type of file, we don't care. We also provide for you a self-registration module that is heavily used by our H-1B and apprenticeship grantees because of the numbers, the scale and scope of these grants, where we went from hundreds of participants to thousands of participants that are required to move through the process in your grant. Self-reg just makes sense. And so we have a self-registration module. This form can be embedded in your partners' websites. If they're going to be driving people to their organization's websites, you can have a centralized, everybody's being driven to if you're the grantee, to your website. The form can be embedded into an iframe. We don't care. Yes, you can add additional fields to the forms as well. We see that all the time where organizations are just accustomed to tracking some additional data besides just the required Pearl data. So no problem at all. We help you with that and help to accommodate that so you can have your other data, if you will, but still be compliant for the feds. Okay, as self-registration records are entered over the internet, then they're all going to flow into your participant management module and sit here in a little segregated area called not yet reviewed participants. So from a business process perspective, you'll want to initiate a workflow, if you don't have it already, whereby someone or some organization or whomever will be responsible for reviewing. I'll look at Shirlene Fisby and review her data and make sure she's not, Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or some such. And then we would approve her as reviewed. That doesn't mean she's enrolled, but she's now reviewed and able to be in the reviewed participants pool, and now we can begin to work with her in the program. But having self-reg is extremely important to our grantees to be able to manage a large amount of data in an organized and secure fashion. The employer management module, very briefly, is a high-level, pretty straightforward CRM kind of a tool where you're going to keep track of your employer profiles or demographics, if you will, the engagement date associated with that employer. The feds want to know the date on which that employer really committed officially to being an employer of record providing apprenticeships or expanded apprenticeships. We want to be able to keep track of the contact people that we're talking to, right? Simple CRM. And we want to be able to keep track of all of those activities. Not only who are we talking with, but what kind of employer outreach activities are we engaged with, and how are we doing? How many new employer activities did we conduct this quarter? The feds are not yet currently asking quite that level of detail, but don't be surprised if there is more and more employer um, activity, outcomes, milestones, whatever term you want to use, expected with these grants. We've been managing these kinds of grants for years, and it seems like nearly every new grant cycle, um, we see on the employer side in particular more specificity around data and outcomes and goals. So we have always included an employer management module in our grant templates because we believe so strongly in being able to track participants and employers, the supply and the demand side, if you will, and making sure that we're all, sort of moving in that same path and same direction anyway. So that's kind of a quick overview of the application, of the modules, of the reports. Let me take a quick step back to our slides and just kind of wrap up and kind of keep everybody on schedule. So quick recap of value proposition. We can deploy it very, very quickly with lots of different grant-specific applications, in particular for Apprenticeship Building America. We will be leveraging the experience that we have with H-1B and WIP's expertise and putting together the final touches on the Apprenticeship Pearl to finish building out the ABA template for you as a subscription service. We provide that personal one-on-one training and system administration training and application administration training, monthly user groups, and ongoing support. We will constantly keep your application up to date. We are constantly monitoring, for example, Workforce GPS and DOL ETA sites where they're regularly publishing updates on these types of grants. ABA is so new that we are still waiting for final rules, as I imagine some of you are as well, final rules on what's going to be required for rapids and what's going to be required for WIPs. We're still waiting for the final rules on the performance outcome measures as well, but we will be looking for all of that so that we can finalize our template for you. Hopefully you were able to see pretty straightforward WIPs reporting by sort of clicking the magic button, filling out the list of parameters, and clicking run, and it produces for you that spreadsheet. That's pretty much all there is. That's pretty straightforward. So finally, implementation, what does that look like? I've seen it go quickly in a couple of weeks to a couple of months. It very much depends on the organization, but it's very simple from our perspective. Every one of our customers has their own dedicated domain name. So your organization name or project acronym, whatever it might be, right? .agsprime.net. That's it. So we'll turn your system on, we'll turn your domain on, if you will. I'll get that set up. All of our customers are hosted through Amazon Web Services or AWS. Everyone has their own dedicated virtualized web server. There's no commingling of data. For those of you taking notes, you are a single tenant environment, very important. And when we have your site turned on and your application template, it's blank, but it will be in your platform, in your domain. We'll go ahead and get your application admin training scheduled. That's typically 2 to 4, depends, 2-hour training sessions. I do those trainings, and then you're ready to go train your end users and go live. It is as simple as that. I've seen it get more complex when we talk through the data entry and the process, that lots of business process discussion goes on within organizations. So that's always good, but it can sometimes be elongate your go live date, but that's totally up to you. From our perspective, it's very straightforward. So that is everything that I have got to say today about the Americas, or about the Apprenticeship Building America template and application that AGS will be providing to the grantees. Are there any questions? We're right at the 1 minute over the mark. Sorry about that. Any questions from anybody? Okay, well, I will take that silence as a no, and thank you again, everybody. Here's my contact information. If there's anything I can do to help, my job here is education, and I will do everything I can to help you. So stay in touch. Let me know what we can do to help you with your grant, and congratulations on the award. Talk to you later. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.